Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Truth Council 23 with me, Truth Nunez, and our spiritual council. Welcome to this tutorial on how to read energies with the tarot. Welcome. We're so thankful to be here with you. The tarot is something that's very, very near and dear to my experience, to my heart, and I hope that you find whatever it is that you need out of this tutorial. Just to give you a little bit of a backdrop on the tarot. So divination has been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and there are different ways to read energies and to understand the language of energies. There's claromancy, there's cartomancy, and many different others. People use things like throwing dice, for example, throwing bones, throwing stones. I come from a long line of people that work with different shells and stones, like crystals and things of that sort. But there are many different ways to listen to the spirits and allow them to guide you. The tarot was actually introduced into Europe by what they call the gypsies, or aka Egyptians, aka Northern Africans. It was during the Renaissance, which was really propelled by the Moors and people coming from Northern Africa into Spain. And the gypsies would have these cards with them. And these cards later took different forms. We even see playing cards. And so the tarot, these cards came from ancient temples. And what it is said is that the tarot that we use today is actually missing a suit. As a channeler, I pick up on energies as well, so I'm able to read energies along with the tarot, which I think is a great gift to use alongside the tarot for anyone who has the gift of clairvoyance or even clairsentience. But the tarot recognizes the major paths that are taken in life, as well as the minor pathways that influence those major paths. So what you have is you have your major arcana, and then you have your 4 suits out of that major arcana. So you have 78 portals, 78 energies that work together to frame an experience within the context that we allow ourselves to live in. So you address religion in the tarot. It actually addresses all of the major aspects of one's life functioning in our society. So you have things that are very related to the home, very related to the couple, very related to relationships, very related to religion, to politics, very related to nature and the natural forces. And then you have other energies that are more related to conflicts, conflict resolution, and how to deal with external and internal states of consciousness. So we're going to start with the major arcana. So this video will be for the major arcana. So you're starting with the Fool. So you have the Fool, which is technically 0. You have 22 major arcana cards. The Fool is 0. The Fool is all potential. All potential is in 0. For those of you who study in linguistics, yes, but also in coding, you have the basic structures of a society. It's ones and zeros. That's programming language. The basic language is ones and zeros. You have all potential in the 0. The ones close it out. So you have 0 as the Fool. It is the energy that takes the leap of faith. All potential is here. The Fool can represent a child we do have a course for those of you who want to take our course. We do have a very in-depth course, and you can check the description box below. We're just going over a very high level, very, very high level tutorial on the tarot, so you can kind of get the basics going. But if you do want to look at our in-depth course, you can definitely look in the description box below. Because here you have, I say that because here you have the colors mean something. Even the fact that he is on a cliff, jumping off of a cliffside, that means something. The fact that he has a dog here, it also tells you about the main culture that influences the tarot. A lot of cultures around the world do not believe that a dog is a man's best friend. However, we are in a dominant culture that believes that a dog is a man's best friend. So there are other energies that are influencing the way that we view this because of a social system, and the tarot that does speak to that social system as well. So you have a leap of faith here, you have a new beginning here, you have children here, you have innocence and loyalty and trust in the universe as you take a leap of faith into something new. When the Fool comes out, it does advise you to take a risk. However you take that risk is totally up to you, and the surrounding cards will tell you what the results or what the potential results, the energetic potential results of that risk will be. This is a leap of faith. You see that here, he just has his little bag. For those of you who can recall when they would say like, I'm going out west, and you would have like your little bag in your little stick through the bag, and they have usually like they showed like a can of beans or something like that. For some, it's like that's a way to understand it. It's you're taking the bare minimum with you into this new creation. Oftentimes they say that all of the magician's tools are also with this Fool. So the Fool understands that they're using, it's almost like using your body as a wand. The Fool can also sometimes represent when a baby is about to be born. It's very childlike, very innocent energy. The Magician. So now the Fool has arrived somewhere, and they have taken all of their tools out of their bag. So now you have the Magician. All of the tools are now laid out on the table. You're ready to actually start constructing something, manifesting something. These are things that take form first in the spirit, and then they are manifested into reality. They take form first in the spirit. So this is kind of like the Fool would be conception. The Magician would be the first few months of a pregnancy. And a pregnancy can take on different forms, because we have also the High Priestess energy that also signifies fertility, and a pregnancy a little bit later in its form, usually a few months in, but or when the mother's already showing. But here we have a Magician. So now you have all of the tools laid right out on the table. You're ready to get to work. You even have a table already. So how you manifested that table before needing your tools to use that tells you a lot. The Fool has all potential. It's really an alchemy that takes form. It's really a thought that begins to coagulate. And the Magician is a very, very focused energy. It's very tied to the Fool, even the yellow, so the solar plexus energy that's being activated, still having a bit more vegetation than the Fool. You see the Fool's kind of like almost in a desert or icy area, and this is more fruitful here, more vegetation here. The Magician allows you to take now things that have kind of started already growing, because they started growing in your consciousness, and they were bringing that forward. In a psychological way, all of these lower, or I would say the first Arcana really talk about the subconscious mind, or the unconscious mind, bringing things from the unconscious into consciousness. And that's what the Magician is actually. So now when we have a potential, now the Magician starts to form that potential. The High Priestess, the mysteries. The High Priestess guards the sacred feminine. It does speak of sensuality, but in a very almost prudish type of way, in a very reserved and wise type of way. But the mysticism itself is what's making this high priestess sexy. The high priestess can bring in secrets. It can bring in the mysteries of life, initiates of different spiritual systems, people that are high-ranking religious or spiritualist, people that bring in kind of like those mysteries of life, moving beyond what is material still, a pregnancy. It does also bring in things that are kept hidden, but you can intuit, you can feel. It's still very, very feminine, very feel energy. We have the Empress. So the Empress, oftentimes in private readings, the Empress will bring in a mother or a matriarch. The Empress brings in a creative venture. It could bring in children or someone who has some type of a feminine or masculine energy, a male or a female, who has some type of role in nurturing either children or working with children or working to nurture a community. This is very fertile, very fruitful energy. To be around this energy, this is usually someone that lights up a room, someone that's very beautiful, very magnetic, someone that feeds information to others to nurture them, but also knows how to nurture herself or himself very well. Someone that sits on a throne. Normally, if you look at even royalty gets things brought to them. So this energy brings things not only for themselves. A great Empress actually nurtures communities. That's why, they say a society is only as good as the females behind them, because the Empress energy, the divine feminine energy, is what brings in and nurtures everyone, provides for everyone. So you go from, again, very barren lands in the beginning to growing a whole forest. Do you see the progression there? It all tells a story. The Emperor is something that's very, very stable. Oftentimes, this actually brings in work situations, because a lot of people actually see their work as a father figure or their boss as a father figure. Believe it or not, energetically, oftentimes the Emperor, which represents a father or a strong patriarchal presence in a family structure, oftentimes this brings in a boss or someone at work. This also brings in, for more established energies in terms of couples, it brings in, it could bring in a headmaster for some. It brings in a partner. It brings in someone's husband, or it brings in a grandfather or a protector, a provider. For some, this could also bring in an authority figure or an authoritative energy within yourself, whether you be a male or a female. It brings in an authoritative figure within yourself. It also technically initiates the zodiac signs in the tarot, but we'll talk about that in another video. We'll focus on just the meaning of each card for now, but we'll talk about the zodiac a little bit later in another video. So very, very authoritative, action-oriented energy, very stable. This brings in very old industries as well. For example, industries like construction industries. It could bring in, for example, masons, or it could bring in the energy of big companies or big corporations, Fortune 500 companies, very, very stable in our society. These things would take a huge tower to tower out. So it brings in a really, really stable energy. In your life, it would bring in that same type of energy on a, I guess a smaller degree, depending on how you look at it. But it could bring in, for example, a very important male figure in your life, or you as a very important male figure within a family structure or a community. We have the Hierophant. So we have belief systems. After you have an emperor and an empress come together to have the Holy Trinity, then you get the belief system that manifests outside of these beings. Belief systems, religious institutions. The Hierophant is all about groups of people that govern beliefs, or the belief systems, the structures set up within your mind that allow you to download. You see how he has some type of a portal here, so that way you can manifest, and then now you get twins. From one you get two. Isn't that interesting? So I feel, so for me, when this comes in, it usually talks about a spiritualist, but more in the sense of a group, a spiritual group, a religious institution. It could also talk about your own belief systems that are manifesting outside of yourself, strong pillars within communities. It could bring in nonprofit organizations, or organizations that are less technically about money, but more about the community, or supporting communities. It's really about belief systems, religion, spirituality, and how those tie together. In our society, there's kind of it's almost like a fluctuating energy between spirituality and religion. It's funny, oftentimes I get people that would mock spirituality, but I'm like, would you disrespect religion in that way? And do you understand that they're one and the same? In fact, spirituality may be more important because it's the person's soul. But in this society, it's kind of been so polarized and externalized that you see religion as this almost supreme being outside of oneself. But technically it comes from within the self, and this is all about the belief systems that build structures and how you organize that in communities. The choice, the lovers, Archangel Raphael. So the first archangel in the tarot, to show its face. So here we have two people coming together under Archangel Raphael. Papa Legba is also very related to this energy, in that they grant access to pathways. So here we have Archangel giving the blessing to two paths to come together, two energies. It is a choice that you make. The sixth energy, the choice, the lovers, it's all about choices. It's all about a path that you're taking, whether you could go this way or you can go that way. Sometimes you even have to climb mountains, or you're going to have to walk towards that mountain, or after climbing the mountain, you're taking a new path and you're coming together. So it talks about challenges in pathways, but the archangels grant you access to those pathways. This could bring in, for example, if you're making a very important decision between two work situations. One will take you one way, one will take you the other. No matter what, you got to make a choice. A pathway will open up. Maybe someone is asking, am I going to be able to have this opportunity? If the Gemini energy, the choice, the lovers comes up, it means you're going to have a choice to make. You're actually going to have that opportunity and maybe another solid opportunity. There come many paths and you must choose one. And that's what the choice, the lovers, essentially at its base allows you to make a choice, or letting you know that a choice is going to have to be made at some point. The Chariot. So we have here movement, forward movement. The Chariot, if you see who is riding on the Chariot, some people say it's the Emperor. Some people say it's, another archangel that we don't really talk about. No matter what, this is victory. And important people get to ride in the tarot. Essentially, the Querent is the most important person in the whole reading. And so, as they should be on their own reading. So this is essentially the Querent, and in the direction that you're moving in, the cards around you will tell you. But no matter what, you will have victory. It's also fast forward movement. This can also bring in distance travels, and it's technically the only vehicle in the tarot. So it also, oftentimes when it's talking about vehicles or purchasing a new vehicle, this energy will come up. I'm a channeler, so when I get a vision of a vehicle, I normally ask the person, are you thinking of getting a vehicle? And oftentimes they say yes, because this tends to bring in that energy of either purchasing a new vehicle or moving or relocating or distance travels. Again, out of all of the energies of even traveling here, this is one of the ones that can travel actually quite far and take quite a bit of stuff with them. So for some, this could be, you know, a move and signify that you're bringing things with you somewhere. It's all about victory and quick movement. So wherever you're going, you're heading in a direction, you've set your eyesight, or you will be setting your eyesight on something, and you move forward pretty quickly. Strength energy is very, very close to the Empress energy. So you actually see here, we have the Empress here, and she is working with the Lion, and the Lion is working with her. And strength is all about having the strength to do something. There will be a challenge that will be presented. You have, now it depends on whether it's in the upright or whether it's in the reverse and the energy that you feel. But oftentimes when strength comes up, there's going to be a challenge, but you have the strength, the diplomacy, because the Empress is also about someone who's very diplomatic. You have the diplomacy and the strength to be up for the challenge. So if there's something that you have to take a decision on, or maybe sometimes you have to hold back and be more diplomatic. The theme here is diplomacy, especially because you see the Empress, and the Empress, especially in business deals, in dealings within life, she tends to be diplomatic. It's like tough love if it needs to be offered, but we don't want to kill anybody. The Lion has the potential to really cause some chaos and damage, but you see how the Lion is being worked gently. Strength is not about reckless endangerment. Strength is, how do I approach this situation and have the strength to do what is just in this situation. It will be a challenge because it requires strength. However, this is something that you can do. Spirit's also giving us how in the Thoth Tarot, strength is actually lust, and that power of lust. Think of what the power of lust is capable of doing, especially when you have it balanced within yourself. We have the Hermit, one of my favorites. So the Hermit is learning of one's life lessons. The Hermit has an Ace of Wands in his hand, also with the star in a little jar. In a little jar. You have the star in a little, I forgot what those things are called. That thing. The Hermit is all about reflection. It's all about reflecting on the paths that one has taken and how we've arrived to this wisdom that we now have. The Hermit can bring in isolation periods. The Hermit can bring in very, deep isolation periods that could last years. So again, depending on the energies around it is a major energy. So it does bring in energies of isolation, of transformation from within, based on the lessons, the passions, the actions, because Ace of Wands is all about taking a surprise action, listening to the inner voice, or getting back to the inner voice. It's curious because the inner voice is kind of neutralized here so that you could observe it. In certain tarots, the Hermit is actually couché, or some type of an isolation, or to be even couché in French is to be tucked in, or to be laid down, or to be in bed. And for some, it's looking within yourself, taking a break, taking a pause. Recovery is also very important. When the Hermit comes out, it could signify a recovery period after deep, intense reflection and recuperation. It could also bring in the energy of an elderly person, or an older or a wiser person. This is acquired wisdom, not because of, the Fool is wise in a very innocent, kind of like jovial, juvenile way. The Hermit is wise because of the experiences that the Hermit took to get there. You see even a gray beard, hands very fragile. It's been a long life. Karma is kind of weighing on his head based on the slouching down, the curvature of the back. So you see this person has been through quite a bit of life experiences, and now it's time to take a break, take a pause, coucher, to really reflect. This is all about reflection, hibernation periods, isolation periods, deep reflection, to really, really think about what one has been doing. Because then we have karma. So the Wheel of Fortune is unexpected events. The easiest way to explain the Wheel of Fortune when it comes out, it's something that was put into play in another cycle. There's another cycle here. Now the wheel is turning. So what was once will come again. And then what comes will then go away. And there's the cycles, and it's a spiral of life, and everything keeps spiraling. So it's a constant cycle. Everything is in constant movement. Unexpected events come in with this. Depending on how it goes, it'll tell you how it flows. Because you see the little demon is down here too. So as it turns, depending on where you are in terms of your karma, in terms of your process, in terms of the lesson plans that you have either excelled or maybe you need to repeat one, this will tell you exactly where you are and what's coming. Again, the energies around you can give you a hint, but this is very karma related. Oftentimes when this comes in, it's difficult to really pinpoint where you're going to land on the karmic wheel, only because we tend to, it's almost like a dissociation has to happen within the translation. And so it's like when you come in at an angle, right? It reminds you kind of coming into the world at an angle. And that angle will dictate or kind of help you to figure out where you are in the karmic wheel of life. Because then we have justice. Eventually, everything has to balance out. There has to be some type of structure. There has to be, even the red robe tells you something. This person's carrying the sword, but they're also carrying a balance. So you have Ma'at energy here, but you have also Archangel Michael energy here. There needs to be the truth and balance. There has to be your heart. They say an ancient saying is to weigh the heart against the feather. Your heart must be lighter than a feather. And so with that balance of your truth, justice brings in procedures. Justin. Okay, for some Justin. Justice could bring in legal procedures, medical documents, especially if it comes out with the Hermit, or if it comes out with the Hierophant. Legal documents, marriages, more like in a legal sense, going to court, even procedures at work. It can bring in procedures at work. Again, you would have to look at the energies around it in order to get more information. It could bring in a judge. It could bring in someone in a very high ranking official position that governs procedures in an organization. It could bring in, something like a magistrate. It could even bring in something like a high-ranking judge, a federal judge. This is someone that makes decisions and needs to uphold the pillars. This person upholds the pillars. Like the high priestess, this person too is covering something or has some type of access to hidden knowledge. But unlike the high priestess, this is done in a more cold, calculating, procedural way. This is not about intuition. They both have spiritual rank and authority, but one is very in the as above and so below type of energy. We have the hanged person. So in certain tarots, this is a sacrifice. This is giving something up in order to keep yourself in a position to, maybe for some, it's bringing in an energy of, let's say, feeling stuck in a situation, but willfully doing so, especially if it's in the upright, changing one's perspective in a situation. You see how this person is technically, we don't know if their hands are banded or not. We don't know if he can get up and untie his leg or not, but he's willing to put himself in that position at this particular time for whatever reason. This could last a while. This energy is not quick moving energy. It does last a while, so it takes time to change the mind. It takes time, even with that. This is very tied to karma as well and justice, and that's why they're all very close to each other, because it takes time to change the mind or behavioral patterns. This is very about the body, even the position of how the body is, kind of suspended in the air because this person doesn't want to take a step forward. And so they rather just kind of, this could bring in something like a coward's way out type of thing in more extreme energies, depending on the energies around it. But it also brings in a coward's way out in the sense of, I don't want to make a decision right now. I would rather sacrifice and allow for something else or someone else to kind of, make the plays or call the shots in a situation. There is a very trickster energy to this energy, especially because you can't see the hands. And so it invites you to, even if you think you're stuck in a situation, even if you think you are in sacrifice in a situation, there are ways or different energies at work that can easily cut you off at any second. That's kind of like how this energy works. So surprise change in perspective, feeling stuck in a situation, but maybe all of a sudden things can change. But these are usually longer cycles if you don't make the decision. If you're not making a decision, you're kind of at the mercy of something or someone else. Death energy, an ending, a transformation. No one is above the energy of transformation. It reminds me always of, the laws of thermodynamics. You cannot create nor destroy energy. You can only transmute the energy. And this is all about transformation, transmutation. Not even the Pope, not the children, not this person laying here. Everybody goes through death. When death comes around, it's a huge completion of a cycle for a transformation. And the interesting thing is that in death, there's actually life. That's why they say, do not pity the dead, pity the living. Because the dead have transformed. They've understood something. They have passed. That's why we say you passed the test. We also say you passed on. So death allows you to rediscover something. When death comes through, it's very difficult to resurrect something. To resurrect something would be very difficult, and you would get something like a zombie, which would be a sacrifice. And some tarots is curious how, the hanged person is actually a zombie and death comes through. It's very interesting, the Walking Dead. So death comes and illuminates things and changes the landscape and brings transformation. It could bring in a death, so it can announce the death of somebody. But it can also bring in the announcement of a transformation of a situation. Maybe you had, a connection with, a toxic boss, for example, and the way that you were kind of communicating with this person wasn't working, and all of a sudden something really intense happens, and all of a sudden there's a death, and the way that you talk to each other is completely different. You feel better, you feel healthier, you feel like, wow, it's like this person's a new person. There's a death, there's a transformation, there's an ending. This could bring in endings of relationships, of connections, or it brings in a rebirth as well. We have temperance, so we have healing. We have Archangel Michael here. So we have temperance, we have healing. Temperance is all about taking time after a great death, after a great ending, after a great fall, after a great change, to kind of reestablish so you see something here shows you that barren land thing again, and then through temperance after, it's almost like, for example, this could be a good example for this. So every year, some agriculturalists, they burn land, right? It has to die in order to get better, results and kind of work the land for the next X amount of time. Sometimes it takes a long time. But that could be an example of these two energies working together. So you have now a healing period after something died. So for example, if someone actually passes away, death announces some type of ending, or like an ending of a contract. And you get some time to, you get a severance package. Now you have time to heal, to recover as you prepare for a new season. Temperance is all about preparing for a new season, trying to balance the two. So you're not going too much to one side. It still has justice in it a little bit because you're balancing two. So it still has a little bit of justice in it, temperance in it, making sure that you're not being too hasteful when it comes to a situation, especially after a great ending of a situation, because then you have the devil that brings you into some type of extreme. The devil is also an intoxication with an idea, with a concept, with a person, with a place. everybody has a different vice. Everybody has, not everyone, let me correct that. Certain people have some type of vice, and they become they cling on to that, and that becomes the devil. So the devil is very tricky, because it's you, it's inside of you, it's the extremes within yourself. This wrath is unleashed because of the extremes within yourself. So extreme eating, extreme lying, extreme sexual behavior, extreme worship of something could even become extreme. So you're shackled to the devil. You're shackled to, and as you see, now we have two people here. Kind of reminds you of the choice, right? The choices that you make, the choice, the lovers, Archangel Raphael. So you have the choice and the lovers here. You have two people here, but because of the choices, the paths that you take, again, when they say sin, the word sin is a misstep. You can always step back in the right direction, but the further away you get in one direction, they say you got to walk back. You always have to walk back. And so the devil is, as you are walking and taking different paths in your life, the further away you get into one extreme is the further back you're going to have to walk. And this becomes the weight of yourself. And as you get into these energies, you almost start to justify. So these are the things that we justify in our lives. One more drink, it's not going to hurt. Well, you're 50 drinks in. One more one night stand, it's not gonna hurt. Well, you're 275 one night stands in. One more all-nighter at the church, even that. Well, you haven't slept in like 3 weeks. You really need to sleep. One more fast, one more day of fasting. You've been fasting for 27 days and you really weren't fasting that much. What is the real reason behind your fasting that's leading you to your destruction? Actually, something is coming in an example. There was a beautiful man that I used to work with, him and his family, and I learned that he passed away from fasting. He was in this energy, and he did it out of vanity, because he was obese for a few years, and he ended up finding out that if he fasted for 2 weeks and everything went fine. He kind of said, I want to drink a little bit of juice because I feel like my body's really calling for some nutrients. And then he said, I want to fast a little more, because he saw how much weight he lost. And in a week later, it was almost like 20 something days. And a week later, he had passed. Even something that's seemingly good for you. It's like, how far do you take it and the reasons why? I know other people that have fasted for a lot longer and they didn't die, but it's really about your intention. The devil looks into your soul and makes you really see those hidden little demons within yourself. And you are the one that brings your destruction. It's quite interesting. This is all about temptation. It could talk about toxic environments. It could talk about temptations. If this is not necessarily a manifested thing or something that's really, really reckless, it's more a temptation. For example, you have a very flirty coworker, and you understand that this person is married, and you understand that this person, they're married and they're not going anywhere, but you see that this person's always trying to flirt with you and always trying to entice you, and that's a temptation. That is a temptation. They're trying to tempt you. They're trying to play the devil in your life. So these things can manifest in different ways, but it's a temptation. It's some type of an intoxication. When it's like this is a little bit more extreme, but again, we'll do reversals in another video. This is more just a temptation to look out for. When it's in the upright, usually, again, depending on the energies that are coming with it, because I am a channeler, so I do, this could bring in, dark rituals as well, again, depending on the energies that I am feeling. But, very surface level, these are things that can lead to destruction if it goes unchecked. Normally, you could definitely check it. Most people do. The Tower. A destruction of a belief system, a destruction of something, a shocking revelation. This could be a surprise. You get an announcement. I'm getting a divorce. The company's going out of business. I have to move. Why? Because it's just a shocking thing that happened. When it's in the upright, normally It's a foreseeable tower, especially if you're paying attention and you're really tapping into your intuition. Oftentimes, it's something that it's a destruction that comes about, but you kind of already knew it was coming. You just didn't make the decisions, the choice, the levers in order to make it happen. You kind of waited for the last minute for the thing to just fall apart. I was watching this video right before starting of this beautiful woman. She was talking about how she was foreseeing, she worked for a company and she was foreseeing that they were going to lay people off. So it's a tower that she foresaw. It's a foreseeable thing. It's not, did she prepare for that? Did she start applying other places? Gemini, the choice, the lovers, does she do, make provisions, 7 of Cups energy, to explore different options? But the tower itself is, especially when it's like this, when it's in the upright, it's usually something you saw already coming, but for some reason you did not make the decision. And it's almost like the decision's kind of imposed and it's kind of shocking and it changes your whole routine up. So now you see something very differently, where before you were kind of maybe wearing even rose-colored or tints, rose-colored glasses or rose-colored tints. I am seeing a pink hair for some, but it really changes your perspective and your mind on a situation. The star is all about healing. Now you get temperance, but you get naked. So now you're back after a tower, after something has been completely destroyed. You're left with nothing except for your divine light. A lot of people wish to be in this energy because now you're in nature. Now the tower is gone. You don't have this tower around you kind of pressuring you into a cage. Now this is like a free bird. Everybody has their star. Everybody needs to follow their divine plan because everybody has their own unique divine lesson plan. Sometimes the tower attracts so many people, belief systems, and these structures attract, you get a community going. So now everybody has like their projection onto this tower and a collective tower, but it kind of takes you away from your individual plan. And sometimes spirit needs you to go back to your individual plan, to get naked, to be in your own skin, to be in your own home, to come back to home, to come back to a purer, more innocent space. Now you're an adult, but you're naked in nature. You're very, very in line with your stars. You look like you're even part of the constellation here. So this is really about taking your place after maybe facades and masks and masquerade balls. And not to say there's anything wrong with that, because that's why we're here. We're here to experience. But oftentimes we downplay the importance of being part of the constellation of life, of as above and so below. We are part of the constellation. So this person is not only coddled by the skies, but also by the lands. And now this person is actually in nature. Now this person is almost kneeling and humbling themselves before the divine plan. And the star is really about that beautiful, unique, guiding light that's within us all, that is humble enough also to accept that, to not be all dressed up outside of judgment. This is the only energy that's naked like this in the world. This person is, well, the world has sometimes this lace around her. This person is so humble. It's almost like Adam and Eve before they left the garden. Like, I'm naked in nature and I speak to the birds and the trees and the communities and to spirit, and I'm not ashamed and I'm not calculating, and I'm just living in the flow of the connection of it all. Really, it's beautiful. It's beautiful energy. This also can bring in a superstardom. It could bring in being exalted in the divine plan. It could also bring in a healing period. It brings in the energy of being divinely guided in your light, in your just light, and very beautiful energy. Also very beautiful, like the Empress energy. It is very attractive energy. We have the moon, so we have the star, and then we have the moon. And the moon talks about intuition. So the freaks come out at the full moon. You see these two dogs howling at the moon. You see this coming out of the little crab coming out of the water. So here, and then we have here kind of like these monolithic structures here that kind of remind you of like, what is that, the hedge? So it talks about the rituals, the things that are in ancient times. The moon energy was actually very related to masculine energy, while the sun is actually feminine energy, because the moon is quite fleeting. The moon can bring up very fleeting emotions that are kept very deep in the subconscious mind. So the moon really impacts water, and it brings up water. So it brings up emotions. It brings up the flow. A lot more people tend to have give birth around the full moon because of the way that it impacts water. And so it really taps into the emotion, but in a very masculine kind of wild type of way. It makes you really bring up those things to light, because the moon, for anybody who's ever been outside, especially like in nature or somewhere where there's not a lot of light, the moon illuminates the skies. It's actually quite beautiful to see. If you never got to see it, I definitely recommend it. The moon talks about those things that we want to keep hidden, but it's like, it's stronger than you. It's a force that is emotionally, it forces you to see an illusion. To the moon energy, especially around full moons, you notice that people behave a little bit differently. The emotions are going a little bit differently, because now you have a projection coming out that oftentimes we like to keep very, very deep. But no matter what, the intuition piece comes through the moon as well, because you have the water here, you have the earth here as well. And the moon itself has that light, that heat element that allows you to transmute energies. It's actually quite subtle, because the moon can be used to heal, but it can also be used to destroy. So a lot of people actually do end up doing, rituals around the moon, around the full moon. And that's why it's interesting, because when you bring up these energies and then they come back down, it's almost like you hide. That's why you can hide things in the subconscious mind, or you can try to implant things in others' subconscious mind. This energy can bring up all types of energies. This energy is really tricky because the moon is a mirror, but sometimes it's a fun house. So the moon talks about the things that are hidden, following one's intuition, maybe even family traumas from things that are long past. It brings up really deep emotions for you to work through. When you do have moon energy, it does advise you to try to be tempered. That's why it's so close, especially to the star, because it allows you to work through deep things that do make you unique, but it's also things that you want to be able to integrate in a way that the projection is not so way off. We have the sun, which is clarity. So the sun energy, again, in ancient times, the sun was very feminine energy. You have a baby here, you have the horse here. Clarity as to the energies that you're channeling. Clarity into what is being brought into your reality. You go from the moon, which is a very obscure, very almost secretive, alluring, kind of, sexy but mysterious and a little scary energy, to everything is right in your face. Everything is just, everything is illuminated, everything gets fed, because the sun feeds all energies. Everything is seen for what it is, and I can see clearly now. The rain is gone, the moon is gone, the night is gone, the storms are gone. You see and you get the downloads that make you like this child. But interesting enough, in spiritual systems, channelers are called horses. Channelers are called horses that go to work. So in Spanish, we say, te puso un trabajo. So channelers are called horses. You are channeling all of the energies that put things into play. And even this playful child riding this horse, this energy is all about contentment in the experience and everything in its just place. It brings in contentment. It brings in appreciation. It's almost like kind of a celebration of sorts. It brings in appreciation for clarity, for warmth. It brings in nurturing. It's almost like that photosynthesis that happens between the sun and the plants, and you see the sunflowers. It could bring in abundance as well. This could talk about just being content and happy because you realize that this baby has nothing, but they're still in abundance. And that's the energy behind the sun. We have judgment. Everybody gets naked. Everybody gets seen for who they are. Actually, we have a lot of naked people in the higher arcana. Here, everybody gets naked here. Everybody gets seen for who they are. You make a judgment call. Judgment is undressing to be seen for who you are. Judgment to really have a rebirth, a renaissance. It's funny, the renaissance thing. Oh my gosh, we're at 48:57. I didn't think this was going to be this long, my lovies, but here we are. Let's go. We're going on strong. We're almost done. Jesus. And this is exactly why I said I was going to put it in different parts, because I'm like, we can't do, Spirit just said just parts, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, 17, 25, 736. All of those numbers are significant. But judgment. So we have here Archangel Gabriel blowing the horma. Something about Hormel meals. Archangel Gabriel blowing the horma. Oh my gosh. Okay, horma for some. Archangel Gabriel blowing the horn on the situation, the rebirth, the resurrection. Everybody get up and do it again. Cash back, earn cash back. For some of you, you got to earn cash back. Judgment. Doesn't matter if you're old, doesn't matter if you're young, doesn't matter if you're a mom, doesn't matter if you're a dad, doesn't matter if you're a male, a female. You get seen exactly for who you are on a soul level, and then in the physical too. You kind of strip certain things to make a call. What is best? What is true to my soul? You have a rebirth. You have some type of it's the final countdown. So this brings in some type of like a major realization of I need to make a judgment call. Sometimes it is a second chance. Sometimes, or not, it's gonna drop. Okay, or not, my lovies. You don't have to make the second chance. Sometimes it's a second chance. Sometimes it's, you see how you have the red cross here as well? Sometimes it's to heal. Sometimes it's to carry a cross, or to let go of a cross. Now you've handed the cross over to Archangel Gabriel. You see how all these people are kind of like releasing and rejoicing and kind of with arms wide open. So it's now like being more open to life. Now it's being more open to a decision, a situation. It could bring in a recovery for some. It could bring in a recovery of health. It could bring in a recovery of something, and something that allows you, for example, like a relationship, a connection, a place, a property, but it's now something that is owed back to you. It's like the resurrection. It's something that is owed back to you, but now you're coming in from a very different and a higher perspective. And so after you went through the star, the moon, the sun, you stripped away layers with the tower that introduced all of this nudity. Now you allow yourself to truly be, because you went through a very difficult cycle where you understood how it is to be dressed up, and then how it is to be truly you in a very mature form. Even as a child, what is the highest good for this child? This is what judgment invites you to explore. What's the highest good for me in the situation, truly, without the facades, without the monkey suits, without the illusions? Who am I on this boat in the middle of an ocean? And then you have the world. Someone's going to get a promotion. Then you have the world. The world closes out a chapter. You have all the fixed signs here. You have all of the fixed signs here. And this woman who has her breast out, but she's the center of the whole thing. The world is a completion of a cycle. The world is a completion of a project. The world is a completion of a thought process. Taking it all, for example, it's like if you're working with project managers software, for some of you, Asana is coming in, so you'll understand project management software. You get the project, it's the fool. You're starting something new. By the end of the project, when everything is going, it's go time, you have the system implemented, you've done everything you had to do in the project management software, you used it efficiently, you got the teams together, everybody worked through the whole process of getting this 1 year, 2 year, 3 year project going. And finally, you have this software rollout, and everybody, it's out it's not just out for mass production. Everybody's been using it. It went through the test. It went through the first bugs. We got it out. It's like Facebook 17.0, and now we are good. Now we have actually implemented something, and it's fully functioning. It could bring in the internet. This could bring in the World Wide Web. But it's just something that's completed. It's something that, and not completed because in energies, everything is in constant motion. There is never a finish line per se. It's just now in a form where it is functioning. It's like you built the house, you live in the house, you've spent a year gardening, you have a garden outside of the house, your family, your family's in the house, whatever family, your roommates, your significant other, your children, whatever, your pet children. It's like it is something is existing in a completed state. It's not to say it is the end or the beginning, because this is why you have this kind of almost like the snake that eats its tail, because everything continues. So it's always keeping that in mind, that this is an endless cycle. And guess where you head back to? The Fool. You head back to the Fool. So you start again. And this is why you have a 0 here, but you also have a 0 here. But my lovies, again, this is a very, 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 very high level. This tells you, if this is a high level overview of just the major arcana alone, and we're at 54, 58 here, that tells you a lot about, I haven't even gotten into the details of the tarot, the symbols in the tarot, reading the tarot intuitively as well, using the channeled messages with the tarot. Again, if you do want to take the course, you can definitely follow the link in the description box below. At this time, we do one-on-one. But until next time, my lovies, so we're going to start with the major arcana. We'll move into, I think we're going to do pentacles next, then move into the swords energy, then the wands, and then the cups, and then we will go from there, because it is what's fair, my lovies. Until next time, very, very soon. In love always, my lovies. In love always, and forever.